Alhamdulillah wa bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In our last segment, we concluded on the lines of making the connection between the 666. And that is the 6 of physical disobedience, the 6 of rational disobedience, the 6 of spiritual disobedience. Pardon me. So we want to now bridge to what many of us really already understand, but I want to remind you of this. There's a verse in the Bible, and the verse in the Bible, Ephesians 6:12. It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness," and now with the Tagut, the rulers of the darknesses of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So all of that ties to the 666 as well. But especially that final 6, but when you put them all together, but that final 6 is that spiritual wickedness, the highest. And this is an evolution. It's like the evolution of a worm to a dragon. You know, it's an order of magnitude beyond where just simple disobedience. What we're dealing with is spiritual wickedness. That is, you're beyond physical disobedience. You're beyond rational disobedience. You are into that level of spiritual disobedience where you are seeking not only to disobey God's will for you as a person, and not only rationalize that disobedience for yourself as a person so that you have no conscience about your disobedience, but now you go as far as to impose your will on God's world and on God's creatures, mineral, plant, animal, and human. That's where we are, brothers and sisters. So when this Ephesians 6:12 is read, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. It's not about individuals. It's not about it. There are individuals who are hosting this attitude. They are under the Tagut. They are, in our view, friends of Satan, right? They are indeed principalities, like global corporations and all the other things that are cooperating in this process, international organizations and the like. These are principalities, against powers. You have all those powers, governmental powers, law enforcement powers, banking powers, all these powers, think tank, intellectual powers, right? Powers against the rulers of the darknesses, and each of the ones that we're speaking of and that we have in mind are those who they have come to that level, and they are operating the machinery of their principalities in the interest of imposing their will on God's world and on God's creatures. That's where we are, brother and sister. And it's against spiritual wickedness in high places. And that's the spiritual wickedness. The spiritual wickedness is to be such a tagut with all of its definitions, and you're just imposing it on God's world and God's creatures. So let's move on. So the battle is against the tagut. The battle is against the Tagut. And who are the Tagut? The Tagut are those mediums for the works of Shaitan. And when God says, fight the friends of Satan, who are the friends of Satan? The Tagut. Who are the Tagut? Those who are of this state of mind and who operate from where they are with that common purpose of imposing their will on God's world and on God's creatures. So these are the mediums, and the media is a big part of it, especially corporate media is a big part of that whole process. And they are the friends of Satan. They are the friends of this plan. And so, going back to definitions of the Tagut to remind us, powers of evil lead to evil, to be overbold, to be stubborn, to have a stubborn refusal to obey or comply with authority. But they demand that compliance from everybody else, right? But they themselves don't comply to the law and the order of God. extravagantly disobedient, not a little disobedient, extravagantly disobedience, Rolls Royce disobedience, not it's not disobedience to have a Rolls Royce, but you get my metaphor. It's like this is the top of the line of disobedience, extravagantly disobedience, immoderate, corrupt, top or upper part of the mountain. That is, these are people who are doing what they're doing from high places. Idols, demons, sources of wickedness. So that's what we battle against. That is what we battle against, right? If you put too many names, that is names of persons and labels of organizations, yes, I believe that these organizations are involved. I mean, the World Bank, the IMF, the CDC, the World Health Organization, and so many others. Yes, I believe that there is a Gates connection, but we might not see eye to eye in terms of what that connection is. But the connection is not totally invalid to be able to say that, yeah, he's got something to do with it. But perhaps the understanding of the rationale behind it, what motivates it, which the Taghut, the friend of Shaitan, may have convinced him, if such is the case, convinced him that there's no harm in it. That is, you're doing the right thing. Not only are you doing the right thing, you're doing the best thing. You're doing the good thing. Well, and see, that's how Satan works. Through his mediums, he makes their evil deeds fair seeming. That's what it is. It makes it, and when he makes the evil deeds fair seeming, the one who's the victim of being undone by the Taghut and taken over by the Taghut, they don't feel any conscience about it. They feel like it's just totally the right thing to do. And Satan, he says, well, I've succeeded. Our work is done here, right? Because I got them doing the wrong thing, and they think they're doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. I'm successful. Satan says, I'm successful. So Henry David Thoreau, a very important natural philosopher, he says, for every 1,000 hacking at the leaves of evil, there is only one striking at the root. For every 1,000 hacking at the leaves of evil, there's only one striking at the root. So, there's certain people, personalities, some which I've mentioned just a moment ago. It's like they have become the main targets of action, right? But you need to recognize that they are leaves. They're leaves on the tree. Everyone that I've named and those names that are common, they are leaves on the tree, right? The root is somewhere else. And it's about knowing how to because you can get rid of the leaves going to come back. Because you don't know how to kill the root, you don't know how to kill the tree in doing that. And I'm not talking physically, literally, flesh and blood, murder, anything like that. So let me just be clear. Because that's not, let's go back to Ephesians. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. So flesh and blood was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's vision and motivation and model. Was it killed with his assassination? Was Malcolm's vision and model killed with his assassination? John Kennedy, so many others. No, the flesh and blood is not the thing. The thing is the principles, the values, the powers that drive people like those that I just mentioned, but also in the negative, the evil, the wickedness, the spiritual wickedness in high places is driven by something beneath and behind the personalities that we see in front of the camera. So there are 1,000 striking at the leaves, but there's only one, meaning for every 1,000 there's only one striking against the root, and we want to get to the root. Yes, another a connection between the 666 that's in the Quran is in the verse, the chapter 66, verse 6. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا أهلكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة. So, I gotta admit, submit to the fact I need this print to be bigger for me to see. These can do only so much. But let's do the reading again. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملقة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. صدق الله العظيم. And it is saying, one of the expressions of it is, "O you who believe, save yourself, protect yourself and your family from a fire whose fuel is men and stone. Over it are angels, very stern and strong, and they don't fail to do whatever Allah has ordered for them. They do whatever Allah has ordered for them to do." So this is 66:6. 66:6. No accidents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly knows, just to put it lightly, that the 666, the beast, the man, etc., and the previous revelation, the connection is going to be made, inshallah, by His grace and by His permission, to 666. And if you look back at what was just said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nar, save yourself and your family from a fire. It says, وَقُدُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةٌ. That is, it is a fire of men and stone. And nas wal-hijarat, of men and stone. So again, put the men and stone, because it's speaking of men and stone that are a part of what you need to be saved from. Then put those in the taghut category, because taghut is also represented by or as stone, stone idols, stone images, etc. Idols, idol worship, and that can be concrete or abstract. Idol worship, but still stone, like the Rolling Stones, right? So all that, and then also the music started going through my head. Let's go get stoned. They had a record, "Let's go get stoned," and getting stoned, and the people who follow the dead, sometimes they're called stoners. In any case, so the idea is that that stone can become a taghut, meaning that it can pull you into a situation where, pardon me, pull you into a situation where it is now dominating you, pull you into a circumstance where you're being dominated by that. And so save yourselves in that. So don't allow those things to happen to you. Don't allow those things to happen to you. Don't allow those things to happen to your family. Don't allow the taghut. Don't allow the wrong aspiration for pleasure and displeasure, the wrong measurement, the wrong regard given to anything by you or by your family cause you to fall into being taken out of the light into the darkness. This is what it's saying. So there is a connection between the taghut and the connection between the 666 and the connection between what will happen in yourself and in your family if you lose those boundaries. So alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, we're going to conclude this section as it relates to understanding the taghut and the connection with the taghut, and those verses 476 and 258, and the footnotes from Tahfim al-Quran, and what we just read from 66:6 of the Quran as it relates to how to protect yourself from the taghut and as it manifests in different ways. And so again, we can make men idols and be distracted by our desire to please and our fear to displease men, and so therefore we can be led away from obedience to God to obedience to the whims and the will of these other individuals that is itself against the will of God. So we can complacently and blithely come into obedience to a way that is contrary to God's way, being driven by and motivated by and directed by those who want to impose their will on God's world and on God's creatures. Don't be one of them. So inshallah, when we get together again, the next time we're going to start our connection between Go-lieth and the Dajjal. Go-lieth and the Dajjal. God's peace be on you, inshallah. May Allah protect us. May Allah guide us to the best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.